On today's episode of Home Media Minefield, I'm going to be reviewing the 4K UHD and Blu-ray of Blade coming up. Hello, I'm Keith and welcome to Home Media Minefield, helping you with information to navigate the complexities of home cinema and home media entertainment. And for today's episode, I'm going to be looking at the 4K UHD and Blu-ray of Blade, the 1998 superhero horror movie starring Wesley Snipes and Stephen Dorff. Now, kicking off as always with some release information. Blade has been released a number of times on home media. I remember I had the New Line Platinum edition of the DVD back in the early 2000s, and since then it has been released on Blu-ray a couple of times. Now, this 4K UHD edition came out late last year, and I've previously done an unboxing for the limited edition Steelbook, which was available, which also included a mini poster, a slipcase and some exclusive art cards. Now, please stay tuned towards the end of the video for an opportunity to win a copy of the Steelbook edition. Now, from what I've been able to tell, the Blu-ray and the 4K on this are region free and will play anywhere, and all of the versions that have been released so far seem to be identical with regards to the discs and the special features. The US edition does also include a digital copy, which nowhere else seems to offer. But this version that I'm going to be talking about today is a 2-disc set that includes a 4K UHD and a Blu-ray version of the film. So first up, onto the picture quality. As I said, you get both an older version of the Blu-ray included with this, plus this new 4K UHD. And it's fair to say that there is some noticeable improvement on the 4K disc. The film was originally shot on 35mm, and for this restoration there has been a 4K scan, but there has also been some digital noise reduction done on this release. Now, really, when it comes to grain and digital noise reduction, this is very much a subjective thing, and it depends on you as an individual whether you prefer a little bit of film grain nostalgia or whether you want the image to be crystal sharp and clear, even if it means slight blurring in places. Now, this is obviously a topic that we could make an entire video about, but with regards to Blade, there has been some digital noise reduction and smoothing done in places, and the picture is really crisp and sharp. Now, I suspect that one of the reasons they chose to put this through a DNR or digital noise reduction is due to the fact that some of the late 90s CG effects in this don't hold up quite as well on this 4K version. Now, this is understandable because the technology has moved on, and I think that this is a good enough film that it doesn't really make that much difference to the storytelling. But it comes with the territory of getting a crisper, sharper, clearer picture. Also means that older technology when it comes to CG can be more noticeable sometimes. Now, Blade was always one of these films that took place largely in the dark and was quite sort of monochromatic and washed out in its look. That was partly intentional with the tone and aesthetic of this film. But one of the things that the 4K really benefits from in this particular instance is the high dynamic range, or HDR. What that has effectively done is that has punched out the contrast so that the extreme dark scenes you can still pick out a lot of detail in the shadows, but also in the few places where colours pop, namely the blood, particularly in the opening rave sequence. The red does look much punchier than it ever did on the Blu-ray version. Now, I compared them back to back, and even though some of the grain and grittiness is missing in the 4K version, the overall picture quality is much better, much clearer, and much more contrasty than the slightly overblown version on the Blu-ray. So I would say, as far as picture quality goes, and if you've already got this on Blu-ray and you're sort of on the fence, I would say that this is definitely worth the upgrade for picture, as long as you don't mind a little bit of the DNR smoothing out in places. If you really do like your nostalgic heavy grain in film, you might be a little bit disappointed on that note. Now on to the audio side of things, and with this again, this gets a real upgrade because you get a Dolby Atmos track on this, as well as the original 5.1 track that was on the Blu-ray. Now the Dolby Atmos does work incredibly well. There's a lot of separation in this, particularly in the action scenes. When Blade throws his glaive boomerang type thing around the room, the noise literally does travel around you, which is rather cool. And there's a lot of bass included in this as well. For me, comparing the two back to back, the audio upgrade is actually even better than the visual picture upgrade. So I think anyone with a decent sound system who likes their separation and bass on their action movies would be really happy with this. Now onto the special features, and this is where you don't actually get anything new. All of the special features that were on the original New Line Platinum Edition DVD in the early 2000s have all been ported onto this. Now on the 4K itself, you just get the commentary tracks featuring actor-producer Wesley Snipes, actor Stephen Dorff, screenwriter David S. Goyer, producer Pete Frankfurt, production designer Kurt Petrocelli, and cinematographer Theo Van de Sant. Now this is one of those commentaries where this group of people are not all in the room together watching the film and commenting. They are individual interviews and parts of commentaries that are put together to make up the track, where each person is introduced before they speak. Now obviously this commentary was recorded shortly after the film was made, but it does dig a lot into the character, the production, the writing process, and is well worth a listen. Now the second commentary track that's on this isn't on the Blu-ray but is on the 4K, and again it is from that original New Line Platinum release. And it's an isolated music score with commentary by composer Mark Isham. And again, for any film music buffs, it's well worth a listen. And the soundtrack itself alone is great. Now the rest of the special features are contained on the Blu-ray, and as I've already mentioned, are from the original release. Now when all added together, the special features come to about 70 minutes or so there's quite a lot on here. First up is a 15-minute featurette called La Magra, and this features interviews with David Goyer and the producers regarding the genesis of the film. Interestingly, at the time, Wesley Snipes was actually attached to a Black Panther adaptation which didn't end up happening, and it deals a lot with a subplot in the film involving a blood monster which was actually cut from the final film. Now they do show some of the rough scenes that would involve that subplot included in this with very basic visual effects. But they explain the reasons that this subplot was taken out, and I think it's fair to say that the film works without it. Interestingly though, director Stephen Norrington is nowhere to be seen or heard during any of these featurettes. Presumably he was off making another movie. Next up you get a 25-minute Designing Blade featurette. And this looks at everything from designing the world through to the weapons, and features interviews with production designer Kurt Petrocelli, makeup designer Greg Cannon, stunt coordinator Jeff Ward, and visual effects producer Richard Bailey. What's great is you see a lot of the conceptual art and production drawings, weapons blueprints, vehicle designs, etc. throughout this. So it's quite an interesting featurette. Then you get a 12-minute Origins featurette about the character of Blade, which features interviews with Stan Lee of Marvel and with David S. Goyer discussing the character, some of the character's comic history, and of course bringing it to life on the big screen. Then you get a 20-minute documentary called The Blood Tide, which is about blood and its symbolization in history and its connection to vampire legends. And then finally you get the theatrical trailer rounding out the special features. So in terms of scoring for this, for the picture score, I'm going to give this a 4 out of 5. As I said, for me there is noticeable improvement over the Blu-ray picture quality. The high dynamic range works really well on this with the contrast. But the digital noise reduction might not meet everybody's tastes. So it really depends on where you sit on this. But I think 4 is a worthy score for this. Onto the audio side, I'm going to give this a 5 out of 5. I couldn't really think of anything to criticise on this. Again, it's a noticeable improvement on the 5.1 soundtrack, which has been on all of the previous releases. And it's nice, as well as doing the 4K visual restoration, they went and did a full-on Dolby Atmos mix for this. And then when it comes to the extras, I'm going to give that a 3 out of 5. It's great that they've ported everything across from previous releases, and these extras are quite good in their own right. But it's just a shame that we don't get anything new, like a retrospective documentary or even a new audio commentary track. So all in all, that gives this a respectable score of a 12 out of a possible 15 for this 4K UHD release of Blade. It's definitely an upgrade from the previous releases. And if you're into comic book movies and Marvel movies and stuff, then please check out our live stream that goes out on a Sunday on this channel called Let's See What's Out There Live, where currently we are looking at the WandaVision series, which is on Disney+. Now in our episode coming this Sunday, so 2 days from now, we actually do have a special guest joining us. We are really pleased that we have Ryan Airy from Screen Crush joining us to talk WandaVision and Marvel Cinematic Universe. But while he's on, there's also going to be an opportunity to win either the Steelbook or the regular 4K of Blade. We've got 2 copies that we're giving away. So to be in for a chance to get hold of one of these, please do watch the live stream and get involved. If you're seeing this after Sunday, which is quite possible, it is recorded and available on this channel. And that brings me to the end of another home media minefield. If you found this information interesting, then please do give this video a like, consider subscribing to the channel, and hit that bell icon so that you don't miss anything moving forward. I do 4K Blu-ray and DVD reviews, as well as product unboxings, etc. And now live streams and podcasts as well. Now, if there's anything in particular that you'd like me to review or look into, then please do put that in the comments below and I'll see if I can help. But in the meantime, I thank you for your time today, and I'll speak to you at the next Home Media Minefield. Bye for now.